Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a good evening. I am here. Really did not plan on being here. I know I say that every time I come on. But this I'm going to try to make sure is a cooler and calmer live stream from yesterday. And one thing I do want to clarify from something I had said yesterday, I had said, regarding praying for other people. And, there's a lot of Christians out there who are very codependent. There is nothing wrong with asking somebody to pray for you or pray with you in agreement for something. But my comment was really towards people who never pray. They never speak to their Creator, their God, their Father. And they become codependent on pastors and other Christians to do it for them. And it's not healthy to encourage or enable that behavior. So when I get very passionate about that, it's because I want us all to have a healthy relationship with our Lord God Almighty. And I especially get very upset if I think anybody is disrespecting or mocking Him, our Father, or His Word, or misrepresenting Him in any way. Now, that's not towards anybody who sins or has temptations that they deal with. No. This is for people who just don't take it seriously. And in the time that we're living in, we need to grow up and take things more serious. That doesn't mean don't smile, don't have a good time. It's not what that means. But we can't live in a bubble of ignorance, and consider that bliss. It's not bliss because the devil can come and pop that bubble, and then you're dealing with a pain that you just were not prepared for. Nobody is prepared for great loss or, anything like that. And if you don't know how to cry out to your Father, and the world around you is suffering on their own, and they're not going to be there for you, what are you going to do? I've been in that position where I had to cry out to God on my own, and He answers every time. I want everybody who hears my voice to experience when the Lord God Almighty answers your prayer, your cry, because it's a wonderful feeling when He does. He fixes a mess more than you can ever imagine. So if I'm telling you to please learn to pray, and if you must use the Our Father to train yourself, so be it. Anyway, I actually came on this morning because I want to talk about yesterday was the 11th month anniversary to Micah's death. And unfortunately, I'd like to fix this problem before the year anniversary comes up, where last night, just, quickly, I went and checked on how things were going on TikTok. I do have friends on there. A lot of them we know because they're here on YouTube and on Facebook. And so they also go on TikTok. And the reason why most people go onto TikTok is because of the way it's built. It's quick. It's quick satisfaction. You can go on a live quickly. If you're not a content creator, you can just have a bunch of friends show up immediately. All you gotta do is press a button. You could do all these filters. Like one time you saw me come on here as a lion. I've been here as a cookie. That was all from TikTok. And that was to give you an idea of how user-friendly, and you could just gather a lot of people in a short period of time. And you can get attention very quickly if you're a person who needs attention. So That can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's just like a good analogy is a hammer. You could build a house with a hammer. You could also hit somebody in the head with a hammer. It matters what you do with the tool. You could either do good or you can harm. And so, the enemy always finds a way to take something that's meant for good and turns it into something bad. The Lord does the opposite. He takes things that were meant for bad and turns them into something good. It just matters what you're following. The reason why I bring up Micah is because we should have all been talking about Micah. We all congregate. We all know each other because of the Micah Miller case. And instead, it was just drama. Absolute drama. It was, I think, 3 different lives going on at one time, and all kinds of backbiting and all kinds of division. And the unfortunate part is every single one of those, or majority of those people, are all justice for Micah. The problem is there's been an infiltration of people who are seemingly good, but their job is to divide and conquer. We've been going through this for 11 months. They're very good at it. They play like they're your friend. They're very kind. I think I kind of explained this yesterday. They do the yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, Miss Ann, Mr. This. And their speech is it sounds respectful. It sounds kind. It sounds inviting. See, the devil knows how to talk. The devil knows how to look. The devil knows how to put on that false image of goodness, of trustworthiness. He's very good at this because, remember, he knows how to be the angel of light. And very good at dividing honestly good people. People who are friends, people who trust each other or had trusted each other. And so what I had seen was, instead of talking about Micah, instead of reflecting on the case, instead of talking about what's going on with Chris Skinner, which is actually happening right now in real time, or talking about Johnny Jacobs or any of that stuff, it was just drama filled. I could only do 5 minutes and then I went to bed. I have no time for that. And I see just really bad stuff going on. And the bad part of this is, or the sad part really, is April 5th. It does not look like TikTok will be saved. And that includes Red Note and Lemonade, which is also part of the TikTok family. Doesn't look like they're going to be saved either. And I think it's for good reason. Well, I think the reason why RC people enjoy drama is because, and I'm going to be honest here, I'm going to be frank, it's best to do so, they're bored with their lives. They're bored. They're either unhappy, they're lonely, they don't have a lot going on in their own life, they're not fulfilled. And so they go on TikTok because it's more difficult to do this on Facebook or YouTube, or because you have to build yourself on those platforms. Same with Twitter. You've got to build yourself. But at TikTok, you really don't have to build anything. You could just start from the bottom and work your way up top really quick. Really, really quick. And so if you're somebody who craves attention, if you crave just a conversation or just to be around people, and you're not able to do that in your own life, TikTok is playing. And it's not as if the creators of TikTok didn't know this. I think that they created this on purpose so that, people like this, who had this need, this desire, would gravitate towards this platform. And worse off, let me just share with you something that came from Yale Medicine on that social media can negatively impact mental health, potentially leading to anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and even cyberbullying, while also disrupting healthy behaviors and potentially contributing to addiction-like patterns. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because I know of people that are on TikTok morning, noon, night. Sometimes they lose sleep just to be on there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And they've got jobs and children and bills to pay. They're not up there talking about Micah. They're not up there talking about Chris Skinner. They're not up there talking about Johnny Jacobs. They're on there talking about drama. And it's sad. And not that they have to talk about these three people morning, noon, and night. But what happens is they get on there and they talk about things that are not constructive. See, working on that case with Micah, for Micah rather, or on Chris Skinner or Johnny Jacobs or anything related to that was constructive, you know? And so you had a goal. People had a common goal to find out what happened. Why did this happen? And, you know, what's funny is as you dig into that, you also learn things about yourself and your own life. So that it was a constructive thing. But if you're on there just to be on there, then what happens is when people just talk just to have something to say, sometimes the wrong thing is said accidentally, and then this causes a drama that was unnecessary. And people hear it, and then they start a new live to talk about that thing that was said. And it goes on and on and on, like a very bad hair shampoo commercial, you know? And that's what I had seen happening. Not one mention of Micah last night. Not one. Like I said, I watched it for 5-10 minutes. And I think the only constructive live that I saw happening was Regina Ward. She had a panel on and they were talking about, you know, they talk about things like coercive control or the, you know, the laws to help people who are going through that, and, you know, the mental health behind it and whatnot, and, you know, domestic violence and all of that. And so it's all constructive. But the other lives that were going on, and it's not that the people that are doing it are bad. They're not. They're actually really good people. That's the funny part. But the reason why this is all happening is because there's been infiltration of people who have an agenda. And their agenda is to cause division. I don't know why. I don't know what the goal is. But who cares what the goal is? What does it matter? Why even try to spend your time trying to figure it out? The point is, if they're separating and causing this aggravation, you know, I've always said, if we don't give them oxygen, if we don't give this oxygen, it's going to die. It's not going to keep living. It's not going to keep perpetuating. The devil loves division. And so what happened is, on the 11th month anniversary of Micah's passing, none of us got to talk about it. It was totally overshadowed by drama. Absolute unnecessary and ridiculous drama on top of it. And so I don't want to see that happen to her 1-year anniversary of her passing. I just don't want to see that happen. Now, I don't think it is, because like I said, TikTok will be gone April 5th. I don't see anybody making any deals for it. And I see a lot of people on X calling for its shutdown because it's causing a lot of drama. It's causing a lot of damage, actually. And not just this drama that has to do with the Micah Miller case. There's a lot of very bad influencers on there that are influencing in a very negative way to our younger people. The only good thing I could say that happens on TikTok is that the criminals actually give themselves away. They need attention so badly that they actually record their criminal activities on TikTok, thinking that the authorities aren't going to see this. Anything for clicks and likes. It's the most amazing thing. You won't get away with that on YouTube. You won't get away with that on Rumble. You won't get away with that on Facebook. Because I really believe, and I see it for myself, the audiences on those other platforms are much more mature. They have a different desire, different tastes in what they're looking for when they open up those platforms. They want things that are genuine and real and more mature. They're not looking for this baby, self-centered, narcissistic kind of look at me, look at me, look at me, nonsense that goes on TikTok. And as I said, good people have been pulled into this because it's so easy. The platform of TikTok, the interface of it is just very, even I can see where it could pull you in. Because you don't have to be a content creator. You don't really have to be that savvy on social media to be able to navigate TikTok, and and I'm not talking about how to learn and how to operate, how to manipulate it. I'm talking about how to create content and get a lot of people to watch you. It doesn't take much. I'll give you an example of something that me and Tracy actually did an experiment. We had noticed that anytime we did a live on TikTok and we talked about what we talk about, which is truth and, the future of our government, the future of our country, and the history, what brought us to this point, who our real enemies are, who our real allies are, and stuff like that. So the mature audience wants to know about that. Why? Because it affects, first of all, it affects our economy, true, and it affects our health, and it affects our well-being. It affects our, our interests and our investments and our retirement. We can go on and on. But it also finds a way to prevent things like what's happened to Micah, what's happened to Chris, what's happened to our churches. And so people are interested in that, right? Some people, most people in TikTok, as I said, want drama. So we were like, you know what? Let's just allow drama onto one of the lives and see what happens. So normally when it's me and Tracy and we're talking about the things that we talk about, maybe 30 people show up. But this one particular live, and it was about a week and a half ago, Tracy kind of sat back. I sat back and allowed the regulars to come onto the panel and bring up stuff that we don't get involved with, this drama, And eventually about almost 110 people were in the chat. Almost immediately. It just drove people in. And it just shows, I think that there are a lot of people, I'm not going to just say women, because there are men out there as well, who are not fulfilled in their own lives. Either it's their relationships or at home or their job. They're probably very talented. They're probably very creative. And instead of using that talent, instead of using that creativity, they go on to cause drama or get involved with drama, or they look for attention in a very negative way. When my kids have done that. So this is the poison, this is the damage that social media does. Now, why do I bring this up with Micah Miller? Micah, part of the reason that she was so frustrated in her last months was that she was seeking help. And she wasn't really able to seek help. Instead, she had hit a lot of brick walls, which came from people that were working alongside her husband, John Paul. They were supporting him. They were protecting him. They were listening to him. They were, loyal to him and what his needs and desires and wants and what, the goal he was looking for. And that was to either get Micah back or to get absolute revenge on her. And so she wasn't able to get any help. She was also harassed by a lot of these people. Now she passes away, and an unexpected movement is birthed in seeking her justice and getting to the truth. Unexpected, totally. And so what he did was he used that same manipulative agenda, that same manipulative, plan to send out his, as I refer to them as flying monkeys, to go out onto the internet and do the very same things that they did to her to the Justice for Micah movement. And that was to cause division. And trust me, I'm sure that these people caused division within Micah's family and caused division amongst people in the church. And so he did the same thing with the flying monkeys, mostly on TikTok. They couldn't really do it on YouTube and anywhere else. They tried it on Facebook, but it wasn't as successful as it was on TikTok. I see it. I see it for myself. They're very, very good. They play both sides. They say they're justice for Micah, and then almost instantaneously they switch over, like the blink of an eye, onto the support for John Paul Miller group, which is really the Flying Monkeys. Or they try to mix in and try to make it sound like, well, I like to hear both sides of the story. They try to give that story. Or I like to give everybody a chance to explain themselves. They're trying to really give a platform to an abuser and a potential, murderer. And they try to excuse it away, by making it sound like they're fair. They're not fair at all. They're not fair to any of the victims that are now coming forward, or Micah or Chris or any of the other victims that can no longer speak for themselves. They just want to play both sides because it's fun and it brings in a lot of drama. And some people just thrive on that drama. It makes them feel alive. People who are not creative, who have no content to put out there on social media, will cause drama because they want to be heard. They want to be the one I want to have a show. I want to be out there. I want to talk. I want people to hear my voice, but they don't have anything to really say. And so instead, you'll get the content creators who are over-sexualized. That's a lot on TikTok as well. Or you'll get the ones who are criminals, as I explained earlier, and just do things for attention. Or you'll have the ones that are involved in the Micah Miller case who are just drama-filled. They bring nothing to the table. They haven't investigated anything. They haven't researched anything. They haven't FOIA'd for anything. They haven't studied for anything. They haven't done anything to help to get to the goal of justice for Micah. Now, I'm not talking about the protesters. Every Sunday, like clockwork, those women are out there. And if there's a man out there, please forgive me. Without fail, justice for Micah, justice for Micah. No matter where John Paul goes, there they are. God bless him. But I'm talking about the people on social media who've worked very hard on this. I'm not just talking about people who just merely report. I'm talking about people who dug, who looked into, the ones who, is it Fair Bluff? Is it Bear Bluff? Those people. How did she get there? What, was it by boat? Was it by car? Was it by airplane? Just trying to figure out, how did Micah get to where she was found? Digging into where was she where was she in her last moments? God bless Agatha May, because she was the only one that I know of throughout this 11 months that was able to find out that Fair Bluff is totally off the table now. Because the bridge that was, I guess, hooks together the county that Fair Bluff is in and Robeson County was broken at the time that this happened to Micah, April 27, 2024. Also, she was able to, I guess, I don't know how she calculated it, but she calculated that it would take too long for anybody to have taken her by boat from Fair Bluff to the slough. Now, let me tell you how we figured it out. And let me just look it up real quick, because I always want to explain this and then I forget the name. When you, hold on, let me see, how to find I think it was that we were trying to find the miles per hour of a lake. I'll say that, okay? Of a lake. And there's a name of, no, let me see. I'm sorry. Forgive me, guys. I'm doing this in real time. Where can I find recorded information on a river's and depth? This should have the answer, hopefully. Okay, USGS. USGS. So USGS is, and this is who we went to. We had to file a FOIA. Okay. USGS, United States Geological Survey Department. Okay, so that's who we FOIA'd. Me and my husband, we had sent them a FOIA. I'd say probably back in August or September. September, yeah. It was early September. And what we asked for was on April 27th, 2024, between the hours of 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., what was the miles per hour and the depth of Lumber River State Park and its creeks, surrounding creeks. Now I'm going by memory here, okay? If I remember correctly, it was 3 to 4 miles an hour. They also said in what direction. I have it in my notebook, so please forgive me. And then the depth of the creek behind 1281 Princess Anne Road was a little bit above average. It's a very small amount. So let's just say average, okay? And so when we calculated from where Micah was found, because the creek goes all the way right to where she was found, boom, okay? And both pings from Robeson County are on that creek, both, right on it, okay? One was at the 1281 Princess Anne Road, and the other one was right above the slough where she was found on the creek. So let me just repeat that again. That was 1.67 miles away from where she was found. So it was literally the distance, little less than 2 miles. When we calculated it, it took between 11 to 13 minutes to get from point A to point B. Now, 1281 Princess Anne Road across the street was 1274 Princess Anne Road, where Tommy Walters lives. Tommy Walters is the maintenance man at Lumber River State Park. Tommy Walters is good friends with Charles McKinnon. Charles McKinnon is good friends with Johnny Jacobs. This was all the information I ended up giving to the FBI, by the way. And I'm just clarifying this because of what's being put out there, okay? Now, remember, I had sent this information to Regina Ward first, asking her to give it to the feds for me. They ended up calling me 3 days later and asking me to put it into their system directly. They had sent me a link, and I was able to sign on. It was good for 48 hours, and I was able to put in all of the evidence that I had, and that was especially including this. Now, if you want to go from Fair Bluff, for argument's sake, if it takes from 1.67 miles away 11 to 13 minutes, let's just say 11 minutes, okay? We'll say 10. We'll just narrow it down to 10. 10 minutes to get from that short distance, then from Fair Bluff, which, if I'm not mistaken, is what, 11 miles away? You're looking at, if I'm not enough, I'm not a mathematician, so if anybody out there is better at this than I am, it would take about an hour, 50 minutes, right? 50 something minutes. There's not enough time. There just is not enough time to fit that into, from the time she leaves the gas station to the time the phone call is made, right? It's too tight. Secondly, the kind of boat that would have to be used to take her through the river and the slough It's not going to be some big yacht. It's not going to be a motorboat. It's not going to be a large boat. It's going to be a smaller boat. Now, this is a Saturday afternoon, 72 degrees, which we also got from USGS. And it's a beautiful day in April on a Saturday. There were people in this river, okay? Are you going to tell me that this woman, Micah, laying gone, okay, on her back inside a boat, is not going to be noticed going through Lumber River to get to the slough coming from Fairbluff by anyone? Give me a break. That is really, grasping at straws here, okay? The only thing that makes sense and goes along with the pings from the phone is the creek behind 1281 Princess Anne Road. Now, let's talk about 1281 Princess Anne Road for a second. It's a big piece of property. No house, no building, nothing on it. So very easily, they could have loaded her onto anything. There's no visibility to this creek for a couple of reasons. One, there's not many homes or anything around it. And two, it's surrounded by trees. That's why you can't see it on a Google map when you're looking at it from satellite. If you open up your Google Maps right now, everybody, and the first thing you're going to see default is satellite. If you look over Lumber River State Park, okay, and look in the area of the slough and just kind of, bring it out a little bit, and then switch it over to terrain, you'll all of a sudden see that creek. And you will notice that creek goes right to the mouth, right to the opening of where Micah was found. I mean, literally where she was found. To where the creek ends and the slough begins is exactly where her stuff and her body were found. Okay? It's not about Anne being right, but it's about what makes sense. It took a month of me and two other girls, really me and Kristen, mostly, day and night, weekends without rest, to look into this, to measure it, to everything about it, to measure from the gas station to that point, to how probable, and then found out that Tommy Walters lives across the street. It all fit in. An ATV, it didn't make sense. Although, could it be done? But how would she be laying on her back for so long without being noticed? It was all about not being noticed. If Lumber River State Park was the kind of place that nobody went and it was always desolate, then I'd say, okay, they could have done this in any way. They could have dropped her from an airplane and it could be explained. But we're dealing with a place that on a Saturday afternoon and a beautiful day, sunny, people are off from work. They're going to be there fishing and having a good time. It was a beautiful day. So, and then you put together what the sheriff's department had put on their PowerPoint presentation that they gave to everybody on May 7th, the media. Literally, the first page gives you all the answers. It was if Robeson County was going, all the answers are right here on the front page. This is why we called South Carolina's FBI and AG, because we feel that from the evidence we see, her life was taken in South Carolina and she was placed here. You guys figure it out. It's almost like that's how it feels, and then what? May 13th, not even how many days later, here were the feds going, all right, we're going to take it on. And they have ever since. And it's not like it's a secret, people. There are like multiple national outlets that covered that the feds took over, like People Magazine, Newsweek. It's out there. I've shown it. I've got videos showing that these major news outlets reported that the feds were doing. They claimed a parallel investigation. with Robeson County. You've had Regina Ward come in front of people, I don't know, maybe once or twice at this point, stating she's been in front of the grand jury, federal grand jury, back in October regarding Micah and what evidence she had. And then she also had said they would not give her back Micah's watch, Micah's phone, or Micah's car because the authorities still had it. This was well after Robeson County finished their investigation. This is what I'm talking about with critical thinking. A lot of people who covered this case covered it with emotion. And because they covered it with emotion, they lacked the ability to be able to come to a reasonable conclusion, or people who were reporting on it wanted to be correct. That's all they cared about, was that they were correct. Okay. They didn't care about truth. They didn't care about working with other investigators, people that were really putting in their time and effort, and that's sad, because if we would have all worked together, this would have been an incredible journey. But everybody, not me, but a lot of people wanted to just work against each other. I want to be right. I want to be first. And they lost their way. They lost the whole, they lost a lot of respect. Let's put it that way. At least by me. And then on top of that, you mix, the Flying Monkeys kept saying there was no FBI involved. I don't even know why they were saying that, because it's not as if, they were going to speak it into existence or something. And then you had the mix of the Flying Monkeys, as we were all trying to come to this conclusion, attacking and attacking and attacking, or causing division or causing drama, I guess hoping that people would just go, you know what, I don't need this crap anymore, and just walk away. And that didn't happen. It didn't work. They're still trying. They're still trying, and they're going to try all the way to the end of TikTok's existence in the United States, which is sad, because what's going to happen is a lot of these people, good people that got pulled into these dramas, when the lights are shut off and the doors are shut to TikTok and Red Note and Lemonade and all this other stupid crap that's attached to TikTok, these people are going to be standing there going, now what? Now where do I go? Now who do I talk to? You think they're going to be able to come onto YouTube and do what they did on TikTok? No. As I said earlier, they're not going to be able to do it on Facebook anymore. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg went and had a meeting with President Trump. Obviously, it was a good meeting, because I can tell you, I'm amazed at what you can report on Facebook now. 2 years ago, you would have been kicked off and banned. Now, the truth is totally open. Mostly. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 words you're not allowed to say. I could say the same for YouTube. I'm sitting here saying things that I did not think I could say. And it's because of the executive orders. They are respecting our constitutional right for freedom of speech. TikTok's not. And that's why TikTok is gone on April 5th. And all these people that were living for the moment on TikTok are going to be standing there on April 5th going, what the hell just happened? Where did everybody go? And I feel bad for them, because they're burning bridges with their other Justice for Micah brothers and sisters who are not going to want to be with them, or not going to trust them. And then when that annual anniversary of Micah's passing happens, instead of us all being together and joining each other in this movement that we've all, just close to our chest, the Flying Monkeys found a way to create division, which is sad. So, yeah, unfortunately, so Ashley says, unfortunately, every news broadcast I hear, they say self-unaliving, and I cringe. I just think they shouldn't say that. It's true. We have to be careful in regards to that word. Now, what I found was, there's a friend of mine on TikTok, and her name within her username has the S word, okay? The unaliving S word. And if I go to search her, it's not her fault, but if I happen to go search her, it's all one word. But because that word is in her name, I can't even find her in the search. Instead, I get this 1-800 number if I need help, and oh my gosh, and seek help, and we can help you. And so their algorithms, they've coded it so that that word triggers that response. And I think all social media is like that. Just because, and you do it on Google, you put that word on Google, that's exactly what's going to come up. If you're looking for any kind of research related to self-unaliving, it's going to be very difficult to get past, which is a good thing. If somebody is seeking help before harming themselves, I think they should have that readily available to them, that information. But it does get a little ridiculous when trying to report on it. It is a little difficult. Yeah, she's gone. It's going to be now. We're on our last month, and today's the 28th. So in a month, we're going to be I'm celebrating her life, but at the same time, seeking her justice and the truth of what really happened to her on that day. And I pray, because of the season that we're in between Purim and Passover. Passover ends, if I'm not mistaken, I think April 20th. I think. And I'm praying that the Lord God uses that season to put the cuffs on the people who have harmed her and the ones who've helped those people who've harmed her, and Chris and the Gobbles and everybody else, and the, Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 and any other Jane Does that are out there, and anybody else right now that's sitting back there afraid to move forward. And here's the other thing. This drama that keeps getting perpetuated, this garbage that keeps happening on TikTok. And again, it's good people being pulled in by the flying monkeys, by the people who have an agenda to cause division, divide and conquer. They're making it a very, scary climate, which is on purpose, by the way, for any one of the other victims to come forward. They're afraid. See, people like me, I come on heavy and strong because I want those victims to know that I will fight for you. And I'm a good fighter. I'm pretty good at scaring people. I don't do it on purpose. It's just my personality. I'm a warrior for Christ. I don't put up with much. So, if you're out there and you're a victim and you hear my voice right now, I want you to know you don't necessarily have to come to me, but I will fight for your ability to seek justice for yourself. I will not allow anybody to try to shut you down, because he tried to shut me down and I'm still here by the grace of God, because God wins. God gets his way. God has made this case a national, I believe even global case, because he's fed up with what's been going on in his places of worship. And he's fed up with what's been happening to his sheep. He sees how you were victimized. He sees it. He knows what happened to you. And he knows who did that to you. Okay? And now, this season, this hour, is time for payment. It's time for consequence on those people. So your justice is here. Again, you don't have to come to me. That's okay. I'm not pulling that. Oh, you must come to me. You must come to me. No, you go to wherever you feel is safe, and you go to wherever you feel you can trust. I'm just saying, when you do that, if somebody tries to make you uncomfortable in trying to come forward, I'd like to know about it, because I'll shut them down. I'm telling you, I'm good at it. I actually enjoy it a little bit. I will admit that. I really do. I'm not afraid to go toe-to-toe with the enemy. As a matter of fact, the enemy should be more afraid of me. Just saying. So anyway, that was it's not really a rant, but I did want to share with you, because you guys, you're here on YouTube and you're always looking for the truth, and you're always, very encouraging that the truth come out. You're very mature in how you handle some of the most uncomfortable truths that me and Tracy have brought in front of you. I am going to ask Tracy later on this afternoon if she'd like to do a live on TikTok, trying to pull away more of those people from that platform, prepare them for the shutdown that's going to happen inevitably on April 5th. And if you're on there and you want to join us, we'll be there, most likely on my channel. I just have to see if she's up to it. But that's about it. I don't really get involved with the dramas. I don't really want anything to do with it, but I would like to pull some of these good people out of there. And so thank you for being so supportive. Thank you for your wonderful chats. The things that you say in the chats, I got to tell you, really help me. Some of you come up with some incredible things that I never even thought about. Somebody had come up with a point that was made in regards, let me see if I can find it real quick while I'm here with you, about one of the live that I did yesterday. And it was just an incredible point. And I pray that I'm able to find it while I'm sitting here, because you guys are just being so patient with me right now. And it was in regards to, I think it was the dog with Chris. Okay, I can't really find it, but I'll just say it real quick. If Chris was planning to do this to himself, I think she had said, he would have never brought his dog. I got to say, that's a great point. That is a great point. Now, I think it was Robbie Harvey, I'm not sure who said it, that in the video, it might have been Robbie Harvey, that Chris had, I guess, let the dog go on the leash, I guess, or let him go before he went into the pool. Again, we don't know. We have to look. I'm hoping that somehow one of us could see, or maybe even Robbie Harvey can watch it again to let us know if that's what they see, Chris taking his hand and pushing the lever and doing himself. Because if we don't see that, then we know someone else, did this to him. Now, another person in the chat, I guess is from that area, lives in the neighborhood, had said the back gate is broken. And so anybody could have walked in that back gate and remote controlled the chair. So, you guys are just amazing when you show up in the chat and you give all this extra information. And if you think it doesn't matter, you are so mistaken. It does matter a lot. And I sit there and I read it and I just go, wow, this is awesome, because the Lord wants the truth to come forward. And he's going to get his way no matter who tries to stop it. So thank you for that. I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate all of that and your support. So anyway, until you see me again, or you don't really see me, you hear me, and until I have something new to report on, hopefully me and Tracy will come on together soon for you guys. And I will have some new documentaries to put up as well very soon. Until then, please stay safe. If I don't see you over the weekend, have a great weekend. And until then, God bless.